off, I will pull Scott again because
Yeah,
I've
but
said...
Scott's not going to have... Babe,
Yeah, but
Scott's
listen,
not going to have
listen.
it.
Okay.
I'm telling you, Scott's not going to have it. Like, do you know who Scott is? He's very much a principal man.
Yeah.
And he's going to look at it like, Mitch dubbed you, and now you're back to me.
This episode was very slow, but also very crazy at the same time. So I'm very happy to hear Whitney call Scott a principled man when Abby was talking about going back to Scott after she had dumped him, and she said he won't take you back. He's a principled man, which I liked. And also, I've seen an interview online that Gabby and Tink did, where they say apparently there was a fight in the villa between Ella, Whitney, Catherine, and Katie. I think it was over Scott, and I think I seem to remember the incident. So I will talk briefly about it before I review the episode. Anyway, I digress. Hey there. Thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island Season 10, Episode 40. Okay, so apparently there's this, it's on Twitter. I'll try and sort of find a link for it and see if I can put it in my description. But anyway, apparently Whitney, Catherine, and Ella had a commotion with Katie, and security had to be called in. And I think I remember the incident. I think it's the incident where Katie was making allegations that Catherine had sort of told her that Whitney was bragging about Zach, because I remember it started and then suddenly it dispersed, and I don't know whether it went further than that. And then apparently security had to be called to separate them. And it seems they've always sort of avoided each other. The girls have sort of avoided each other, and they've never had a group debriefing since then. But anyway, so I think this answers why Molly's back, because I've been wondering, why is Molly back? Why is Molly back? I have a feeling that the producers, after this commotion, Zachariah must have refused to couple up with either one of the girls because he didn't want the tension. And I think this is why Molly was brought back in to recouple with Zachariah. That way Zachariah was not on his own. I think that makes more sense. That sort of explains why Molly is back. Anyway, I'll review the episode and we'll see how we go. And so I'll just review the couples and we'll get to the bottom of it. So you have Molly and Zachariah. Molly and Zachariah are just quiet. They're staying out of people's business. They're minding their own business. And I think they just are trying to get themselves to the finale, and that's it. And then you have Whitney. I think Whitney and Logan are too good to be true. I'm not saying they're not having feelings towards each other, but I think the producers anytime from now are about to create chaos for Whitney and Logan, unless the fans sort of query that. Because if you look at every couple that the fans have liked, the producers have come in and things have gone astray. There was Richie and Andre. Suddenly they separated them. There was chaos between them, and then they went their separate ways. Maddie and Whitney, same thing happened. Catherine and Scott, same thing happened. And I have a feeling this is what is about to happen to Whitney and Logan, just because bringing in Ella hasn't created the tension between Ty and original Ella that the producers wanted. So I have a feeling that they are the ones the producers are going to go after they finish up with Mitch and Abby. But anyway, I digress. There's so many love triangles, I don't even know which one to start with. Okay, I'll start with Ty, Ella, and Ella. I think Ty feels some type of way about new Ella because he's very reserved and he's trying his best to stay out of the new Ella's way. When they had a conversation and the Ella was saying Battle of the Ellas, he ran back to OG Ella and immediately reported what was said, which didn't make sense to me. And he's very nervous around new Ella. I think if new Ella had come in at the start, Ty would have left original Ella. And if she had come in during Kasamo, I think Ty's head might have been turned. And it makes me somehow believe that maybe this Ella was meant to come in through Kasamo, but then was not brought in after the chaos with the girls. I think that's why they brought back Molly. That way, when the girls come back from Casa, Molly will already be in the villa and she'll be able to couple up with Zachariah without there being any problems. That's the impression that I get. So the two Ellas have a conversation, and the original Ella sort of, I found it too confrontational. I didn't like it because Ella was sort of having a go at the other Ella that, it's not going to be a battle of the Ellas. I'm not going to fight over a man, this, that. Yeah, they could have had that conversation, but I think they should have had it with Ty. because Ty was the source of the information. Ty reported back to OG Ella, and so Ty should have been present during that sort of conversation to sort of pacify the girls. Yes, they were able to iron it out, but I think it would have run smoother had he been the mediator, because he is the one who brought it in. He knows both girls, and he knows why he told OG Ella about that conversation. Anyway, and then Scott is just minding his business. Obviously, Abby comes after a conversation with Mitch, then comes to Scott and tells him that, I don't think it's working. I think my connection with Mitch is stronger, so I'm going to stay with Mitch. And Scott was like, that's fine. I don't mind. It's okay. We can keep it as is, which is one thing I like about him. He'll never force a situation. Anyway, then he has a conversation with new Ella, but New Ella, I think, just realized that Scott is. I think the reason why she didn't pick Scott, because he's the only guy not in a couple, I think is because she thought he was too quiet and he wouldn't give her the attention that she needs in order to sort of make an impact on the show. Then the new islanders are gathered around the fire pit, and New Ella and Josh get to pick. New Ella picks Mitch, which I wasn't surprised because they were constantly having conversations and Mitch seemed very happy. Josh picks Jess. I think Jess needs to wake up and smell coffee because she keeps wanting to be with someone who doesn't want her, and it doesn't make sense to me. Every time she insists on staying with Sammy is really not that into her. He's only into her because that's his ticket in the villa. Anyway, once the recouplings take place, you then have Sammy storming off to the daybeds, and all the guys follow him, which leaves Josh alone. And so Josh goes to try and have a conversation with him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm too upset. I'm too upset. I need time. I need time. Give me time." And he's like, "Why do you need time?" I've always said this. He said Jess was punching, so why does he need time? All Josh has done is just taken Jess off his hands. He can go back to Amber. He can stay with Amber. Amber doesn't have anyone. He can go back to Amber, and I think she will take him. I didn't like that. I didn't like his reaction, and I'm happy that Jess actually stepped forward and took Josh and said, "Okay, let's go and sit by the fire pit because I will not have them isolate you." And that was nice to see that at least somebody's there and somebody cares what happens to somebody else. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. And then Abby. Abby played herself. She had a conversation with Jess and Jess told her, do not break things off with Scott because you don't know where Mitch stands, especially if Mitch says you're not yet closed off, because you're going to break things off with Scott and then Mitch is going to go with Ella and then you're going to be left with no one. But she said, "Oh, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it." She had a conversation with Mitch, which is what Scott was trying to warn her about, that you need to get a neutral party to give you advice. Because after her conversation with Mitch, they sort of left it at, well, if you want to be with me, you need to break things off with Scott. So she ran to break things off with Scott. And then turns out Mitch wasn't ready to break things off with Ella, and Mitch was enjoying the attention that he was getting from Ella. And for him, the way that Abby behaved was sort of a turn off for him. So it gave him the ick, and he was trying to sort of detangle himself. And it's like, how bad do you have to be for Mitch to be turned off from you? Because most people are turned off by Mitch and how possessive he can be. So I didn't get what really happened with her. They then go to bed, and Mitch and Ella are busy gossiping in bed. They're enjoying themselves. They're having conversations. Mitch is loving the attention. And I think he really likes Ella. And I think he's really impressed by her, that such an amazing person would love him or would want to spend time with him. And they even cuddled in bed. And then the next day, Mitch was lying that, oh no, I just woke up with her in my arms. And it's like, Mitch, don't lie. The two of you are facing each other and you were talking for ages, or what seemed like ages. So I don't get what you're trying to say. And the fact that Mitch was saying, "Oh, you looked amazing in your swimsuit," and it's like, Mitch, I've never heard you flirt so much. Even with Molly, you never flirted so much. You really must like this lady. So I don't know how Abby's going to feel. The fact that she was crying didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense to me that why is she crying? It's not the end of the world. And so she was crying to the girl, sort of saying, what do I do now? Mitch seems like, he's moving on. Because um, Whitney was right to tell her that you gave Mitch the ick the moment you started becoming very possessive. Because Mitch likes possession when it's coming from him, when he is being possessive about somebody else. And I think the idea that somebody else was even more possessive than him is what turned him off, because he even told the guys. So after she was told this, she ran back, Abby, to say to me, "Oh, the girls, Whitney is saying that I gave you the ick." And it's like, this is what Scott was telling you. that when people give you advice, listen to it. Don't run to Mitch with every single thing. And this is her problem. I think this is why she's going to always struggle until she resolves the issues, in the sense that until she's able to stand up for herself, and she's not always running to the person that she's dating for advice on a situation that she's having with him, she's never going to move on. Anyway, after that, she then was talking to the girls and saying, well, if Mitch is moving on, I'm going to try and go back to Scott. And Whitney was said, no, Scott is a very principled man. He will not do that. He would rather be single and go home than for him to come back to you. So you have to know that your boat with Scott has moved on, has sailed away. Your only choice is either to make things work with Mitch or to be single. There's no in between. There's no going back to Scott, because you told Scott we're done, and Scott accepted that for what it is. You can't suddenly go back to Scott and say, oh, Scott, I'm ready. I want to restart. He's a very principled man, and he will not accept that. And I was like, oh my God, it's nice to hear the girls talking about Scott's positive qualities, because even the two girls, Tink and Gabby, were saying very nice things about Scott. They said he's a very nice person. He's very reserved. He just doesn't like the drama. And I think this is where the misunderstanding with the other islanders has come in the sense that he's very unpredictable to them, because they don't quite understand him. He's drama free. So the idea that he can be there, but he just doesn't want to become part of toxic situations. I think this is why they were saying he's a game player, he's a game player. But I think slowly they're realizing that he's not a game player, he's just someone who likes keeping to himself, and that's it. But anyway, it was too slow an episode. I don't know. I didn't. I would have preferred more. Apart from the two love triangles, I didn't like them. I think Sammy needs to be next on the chopping block. I think he's had enough time in the villa. I think he needs to go home. I think he hasn't done anything positive apart from sort of mess with Jess and sort of give a sort of false hope on a relationship that is unlikely to work. So I don't know how that will play out. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye everyone.